to the UIAAA Connection podcast. GoFan and VNN are proud to be the exclusive sponsor of the UIAAA Connection. Now a combined company, GoFan and VNN provide a seamless integration for digital ticketing and athletic websites. Direct your fans to one place for all your athletic events, communications, and tickets to home and away games. Thank you to GoFan and VNN for their exclusive sponsorship of the UIAAA Connection.
Welcome back to another edition of the UIAAA Connection. I'm your host, Mark Hutch Hunter. Today we have as our special guest, Aaron Whitehead, the Director of Athletics for the Granite School District in Salt Lake County. Aaron, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate being here.
Let's have you begin by sharing with our international audience where you grew up, where you went to school, university, your first job, those types of things.
You bet. So I grew up in Sandy, Utah, and my family moved when I was in high school to the Cottonwood Heights area. I was a graduate of Skyline High School, a graduate of the University of Utah. I did my teaching certificate at Southern Utah University, and then I did my master's degree at BYU. And my first job was working landscaping for some guy in our neighborhood who still owes me money. And that's when I was 14. And I don't know if he's still alive, but maybe I'll just let him enjoy the $3 an hour I made. And then my first teaching job was at East High School, teaching social studies and debate.
That's interesting. So let's talk for a minute. How old were you when you moved to Cottonwood Heights?
Oh, I was 15.
Okay, so did you spend your whole time at Skyline? Where did you go to junior high then?
So I went to middle school at Eastmont, and then they were going to move ninth grade back down to Eastmont, and that was back in the mid to late 80s, where they were busing kids in, and I was really into skateboarding. I loved to skateboard, the whole Pal Peralta thing, and my two older sisters were Sterling Scholars at Alta. I was nowhere near that path, and so my parents sent me to Churchill Junior, and then I ended up going to Skyline.
Okay, that's awesome. Talk about when you were a young man in Cottonwood Heights and Sandy. Did you have the opportunity to play like youth sports, basketball, football, baseball? Talk
Yes,
about
all
that for a
three.
minute.
Loved it. I played in the Ute Conference for Alta, played free safety, played a little bit of quarterback, but mostly free safety. Played baseball growing up and played basketball. And we had a street, Hutch, where there were 9 kids my age with just right next door to each other, going up this hill. And every day after school, we'd run home. Homework we'd put off until later, and we'd go out and play baseball in the middle of the road, football in the middle of the road. Myself and a neighbor were the only basketball hoops on the street, and that's how we grew up, just loving sports.
So you had your own little sandlot there then with
Yeah,
the 9 kids. That's awesome.
it was good stuff.
Before we get to where you started at East, let me ask you about some of the mentors and leaders that you've had in your life that have made a difference to you.
Oh, the number one mentor would have been my father. So any question I'd have, I had a great relationship. I was only boy out of 7 kids, and he and I naturally just clicked. He passed away about 5 years ago, but any time I had a question, the first person I'd go to, it didn't matter if he knew anything about it or not, was my dad. My son just got his mission call about a month ago, and out of instinct, I pulled out my phone to call my dad. Um, uh, Other mentor, but he's one that I always think, okay, what would my dad have done in this situation? In the coaching world, Kiko Georgilis was the first head coach I worked with at East. He was a tremendous mentor and someone that for years I would reach out to and ask how he would handle different situations. A phenomenal coach, a phenomenal teacher. One piece of advice my dad gave me is when you're hiring your staff, make sure you're hiring good men, men with good character, and also men that have experience as well. And I've been fortunate in my staffs to have mentors on my staff. At East, I had Larry Eldrocker, a longtime Skyline assistant. I had
Hmm.
Doug Bills, who was a longtime head coach. Chuck Clegg was probably the most was tremendously influential, I should say, because he came in on my second year as a head coach, and I was really young in my late 20s, and Had a lot of fun that first year, but not really knowing what I was doing. And he kind of helped align me on what I needed to do. In my current role, I have some great mentors in my director, Dr. Noel Converse, in another one over secondary schools, Craig Stauffer, who's been a successful head coach, a successful athletic director, as well
And
as a successful
principal,
principal.
yeah.
So he's been outstanding. And so I've just been fortunate all the way across the board there with having people. And then another one, I've been fortunate to have been able to collaborate with other people in my position throughout the state. We meet every couple of months, like Everett Kelly Polo from Nebo, Tom Sherwood from Canyons, Brian Beasy from Jordan. But I'm not sure if these guys realize that I'm trying to learn everything I can from them with their experience. They've been great.
Well, talk a little bit more about that because I think that's something that Everett started 2 years ago, and I think it's kind of well, it's something that we needed because really that district we deal a lot with the high school ADs in the school, but the district one seems to just get lost in the shuffle. So talk about what a positive that's been being able to talk between all the big districts.
No, it's outstanding. There'll be questions that come up. It's not necessarily when we're meeting, but somebody will have a question about something that's happening in their district, and they'll put it on our thread, and the thing just blows up throughout the day. Everybody has their input, and each district has their own unique culture about it. Don't get me wrong, but these are all athletic directors or all people who have great experience working in this field that are happy to share it with us. It's basically, in my mind, is similar to the school PLC model, in which teachers get together once a week and collaborate with each other, and at times teachers from other schools will come in and collaborate or cross-curricular. To me, this is great, and it's been invaluable for me in this role, especially with very little athletic administration experience.
Let me ask you a little bit of a personal question here, Aaron. What's your biggest failure or disappointment in life, and what did you learn from it?
Oh, I could look at every role I've had and I could point out a very significant failure that I've had, but I think the biggest one is that I put too much time, I put too much as a football coach especially. I put too much into my career, not as much into my family as I should have. And I opened myself up for anyone to contact me at any time, and I put my family second. People would call me on Sundays, on Saturdays, and you look at what they were upset about, not necessarily upset, what they're concerned about, and it was important perhaps at the time, but not at the expense of the time I was taking away from my family. And looking in retrospect, you know, all that time, good. I'm happy that these young men had great opportunities and hopefully good experiences, but I look at my own family wishing I would have been there a little bit more for them.
Sure, sure. Thanks for sharing that. Let me ask you a little bit about. My goodness, you must have been at East for over a decade, and then before you got to Olympus. So talk about your time in East. Talk about some of the teams you had there, and then talk about your move to Olympus and some of the teams you had there.
Yeah, so I started at East the 1999 football season. I had coached the year previous at Skyline, my alma mater, and that was a great experience to be with my former coaches. My path actually in college was to go to law school. I had taken the LSAT, and in coaching at Skyline, I thought, man, this is something I enjoy. I'm not sure how much I'd enjoy researching all the time, and although I think I would enjoy law a little bit, and so I took the route of education. Coached from 98 for 5 seasons as an assistant, excuse me, 4 seasons, two of Kiko Georgioulas, two of Jim Hamblin. And then the 2003 season, I became the head football coach and I coached there for 5 years. We had a lot of fun. I wish I could go back with those teams with the knowledge that I have now. I think we would have done some things a little different, maybe won a few more games, but we won two region championships. We made it to the playoffs all 5 years. A lot of great kids, a lot of kids went on and did some great things. So that I really enjoyed my time at East. I left East to be a graduate assistant at BYU with Bronco Mendenhall. And then after my time at BYU, I went to Olympus as an assistant for the first 2 years when Mark Smith stepped down. And then I took over and I think I coached for maybe 13 seasons as a head coach. Won 7 region championships, had a lot of fun there too. But Shoot, it was a lot of fun. And the problem that I was having as a grad, doing my graduate work, they're learning about leadership and all these theories on how to apply it as a school administrator. And I wasn't synthesizing it as a school administrator. I was looking, man, I could do this as a coach with this. I could work with my assistant coaches like this. And so everything during that time was geared toward football and athletics.
That's awesome. Let me ask you a little bit of a follow-up, and this dates me, obviously. So when you're at East, I want to know if the East Highland football game is still as big a deal as, and because, like I say, you got to remember, I played at Highland against East during the what would have been the fall of 68, the fall of 69, the fall
Okay.
of 70. And I mean, that like Skyline was just getting on the map and they were beginning to be rivals with Highland, but no, Highland East was like the thing. So I'm wondering all those years later when you were at East, if it still carried
Oh yeah.
that
So
weight.
so everyone talks about that Highland West, excuse me, the East West rivalry, and it was the longest consecutive rivalry west of the Mississippi until they quit playing it shortly after I left. And I still marvel, whatever. But the real rivalry where because and all love to West High School, they're great, but we always beat West. When we played Highland, oh my goodness. So when I was a senior in high school, we beat Highland for the state championship. And so there's always been a little bit, I always want to beat Highland on a
Mm-hmm.
personal level. And it was always for us, we would get so up for that game. It was a very intense rivalry. My last year there was one of those last minute drives to beat Highland. That's one of those top five victories I keep in the back of my mind. A lot of love for those kids at Easton. And the coach there for the majority of the time that I was at East was Brody Benson, who's now up at Woods Cross. And
Right.
I have so much respect for Coach Benson because we always got his 100% best. Even when I was coaching against him when I was at Olympus, we knew that we these guys wouldn't lay up. Tremendous coach.
That's awesome. Now, let me ask you a little bit more about your time at Olympus because I think, and I really didn't know you before your time at Olympus. I think right about the time I got to know you was way back in, well, not way back, maybe 2000, I want to say 17 or 18, because, well, as you know, my son-in-law is the coach at corner and he allows me to hang out on the sidelines. And I can just remember one of the toughest games he ever had was being lucky to beat you guys. I think it was in one of the state semis back
Yeah,
in the late teens there, because that you guys you had a great team.
we were undefeated going into it. I mean, we weren't blowing teams away. It was a battle every game. And we had a key fourth down. We should have just kicked the field goal, but it would have put us up by, I think, six or something. Wouldn't have been.
Six, right?
And so we went for it. And our quarterback had injured his shoulder the week before against Springville, and so he'd been shot up a little bit. And so it kind of hampered our playbook a little. And one of the great, and this is one of those that keeps me up at night all the time. I'll think back to that corner game, that one play.
Mm,
And our kids played so well that entire game, and we ran a trap off the guard side, and they stopped it just barely short of the first down on fourth. And there's been it's just one of those I wish I could go back. And our defense was stellar that year. It was one of the best defenses I've seen in high school football. And and we have great officials in the state of Utah, and corner marched down, and it was third and third and five, I believe it was. And
yeah,
they went to snap the ball, and the right tackle jumped back and dropped into his pass protection before the ball was snapped. And so everybody just kind of took a rest, including our entire defense, and then they snapped the ball anyway and got the first down. And it should have ended up being third and 12, and but shoulda, coulda,
yeah,
woulda. That's one of those things where I feel so bad for that team. I wish that we would have either kicked the field goal because if we missed the field goal, would have put it on the 20, or then I have about three other plays that I should have just trusted my gut on that. But yeah, Coach Kerr is phenomenal. That's the one game I wish we could have
yeah.
gotten.
Well, I just remember that. Yeah, I remember that play because I remember seeing the film afterwards, and I'm thinking to myself, how how in the world do the officials miss that? Because the corner kid clearly was off the ball and
And
moved.
he had great technique. I
But
mean, he looked good dropping in that pass
yeah,
pro.
but you hold it. Yeah, I mean, you held Eric. I think it was under 30 points when he finally won to hold Eric under 30. That's there's not a whole lot of teams that can do that.
I think the final may have been 20 to 15.
Yeah.
but we have the defensive coordinator I had all those years at Olympus is now the head coach, Brandon Bird. He is a tremendous, tremendous coach, and he's the majority of the reason we had such a good year that year.
Well, that's awesome. So let's now go. So you're at the end of your coaching career, and so normally, I would say normally the path would be you go from football coach, maybe you're done to a building AD, but you go from football coach into the Granite district office as an AD. So talk about that for a change.
Yeah, so when I took the position of football coach at Olympus, Mark Manning was the principal, and he knew that I was trying to become
Hmm.
an administrator. And he said, "Aaron, give me 3 seasons, and I'll help you get a job in the district." And I did, and I was offered an administrative job in the district 3 years after. It just, people think there's a lot of people who feel that I should have just jumped at that and started my administrative route from there forward. But I still had it in me. I still wanted to coach, loved the kids in the community. This was one of those places where my son grew up on my sideline. And
Hmm.
I always said, okay, because, don't get me wrong, it'd be a lot of fun to go chaperone school dances and everything else and take care of kids who were in trouble as an administrator. But I've always said if this job ever opened up, I'd put in for it. And it opened up a couple of years ago. I was very surprised that I was happily surprised that I was offered the job. And it was the one thing that would get me away from coaching. And I've absolutely enjoyed it here.
That's awesome. So once you get the district AD job, so then how do you find out, not being a building AD, how do you find out about the UIAAA? Then how do you become involved? I know you've been to the state conference, and we'll talk about that in a moment, but I'm interested in how you hooked up with the UIAAA.
So a couple ways in those monthly meetings last year with Everett and with Tom and those guys, they would speak about the UIAAA. My athletic director, I had great athletic directors as a coach. Kathy Butler was phenomenal, and Kel Ashton
Right.
was outstanding. And Kel, I knew would always come back with these cool backpacks or different door prizes or whatever, and talk about how great the conference was, or just say, "Hey, Aaron, I can't help you out this weekend. I'm going to be in St. George." Um,
Yeah.
and then the other one was my predecessor, who went to the Activities Association as a director, Chris Shipman.
Hmm.
He and I keep in contact quite a bit. He called me up and said, "Hey, look, they're doing some classes over here at our offices. Make sure you sign up. Get your athletic directors there as well." And I started looking at this, and I thought, "Oh my gosh, I have time in the evenings to work on this." And so the only thing keeping me from my CAA is the final exam at this point. This is my second year, so I'm excited to get after that as well as the middle school one. Um, but yeah, I'm excited to be a part of it. It was a lot of fun to go down to St. George.
So let's have you, well, a two-pronged question. In the short time that you've been the district AD, has athletic administration changed, or is it much the same? I know it's you're a short timer, and then share your observations about going to the conference for the first time. Was it what you expected? Were you surprised? I mean, talk about all that.
Yeah, so shoot, the looking at from my time just from the start of last school year to now, it's been a learning curve like crazy. But I look at in working with the athletic directors and what I needed to do to pull my weight as a coach in the past, um, the one thing is everything's electronic, everything's digital. When we have 15 junior high schools that participate in athletics that we run here in the district. To pay the officials, it's all done online through Arbiter. Um,
Right.
to everything, it seems everything is now digital, where in the past, I remember watching, helping out with the ADs or what have you, watching them turn in the forms to have them get paid to the main office. So I think there's some things that have been simplified. Um, at the same time, House Bill 420 was passed a couple of years ago, and it is requiring us to be accountable for our efforts to be compliant with Title IX in terms of athletics. And I see great growth in that. One of the things that the legislation stated is that if there's a discrepancy between men's sports and women's sports of 10% or greater, the school needs to have a plan to kind of eliminate that gap or lessen the gap just a
Sure.
little bit.
Hmm.
And in working with our schools with that is one of the big things for me is to try to celebrate success. Um, from last year, as we're collecting data for this year, it looks like there's an improvement clear across the board. And so there's efforts being made for Title IX. We're trying to do things on the junior high level to get kids excited to play at the high school level. And so, but beyond that, uh, and in talking about the UIAAA conference down in St. George, what was fun for me was that I noticed that there were school administrators from our district that weren't necessarily athletic savvy that came down and attended to support their ADs and also to learn as much as they could. I love the networking opportunities that were there, learning, getting to know people from throughout the state. I also enjoyed the courses. Uh, and I just put on the spot for just a second. There was one, the athletic director Granite from up north gave a presentation. I think it was on. Oh, it's just on the tip of my tongue. I apologize, Hutch, but I enjoy the opportunity to get better at my craft by having these courses available to us.
That's awesome. And so thank you for the shout out to the UIAAA. Let me ask you this. Will your district allow you to go to the national conference anytime soon? Because I know they've been fairly, at least every other year, sending some of your building ADs. Are they going to let you go?
So I'll put in for it. I'd love to go next year. I heard it was at San Antonio this last year. Is
No,
that
it was in Austin, but next year will be
Austin?
Tampa. This coming
Okay.
December will be Tampa.
Well, Austin, San Antonio, so in Texas, and so in Orlando next year, you
Yeah,
said? Oh, that'd be
Tampa.
great. Oh, Tampa, excuse me.
Yeah.
I did not teach geography. It was government.
Well, no, it's Tampa is the makeup because Tampa was where the 2020 conference that we held
Okay.
virtual was going to be, and so they put Tampa back in the rotation.
Oh,
So
that's
it's that. So
outstanding.
it's Tampa, and then it's Phoenix. Then in 2026,
Well, let me see what I can do. I'd love to make it down there. That'd be great.
that would be awesome. Let me ask you this, Aaron. What's now that you're at the district office, a little bit different. What's the favorite part of your job there, as opposed to the favorite part of your job when you were coaching in a building?
Okay, so favorite part of the job, I get the opportunity to do side visits, to go work, pop in to meet with athletic directors and coaches. I always enjoy going into school. I love being in the classroom as a teacher. And that's the one thing I really do miss is that daily interaction with students. But it's fun to go into the school. We have 8 different schools with very different cultures about them. And going in there and seeing these coaches and seeing the athletic directors and the great work that they're doing, that's what I enjoy the most. I also enjoy the athletics that we have for the junior highs. I think it's something unique well, I know there's a couple of other districts that do it, but Granite's been doing it, shoot, for at least 40 years, if not longer. And
Right.
it's fun to see kids. The number one thing for me as a coach that I loved was seeing young people achieve goals that they had set for themselves. And so there's the one thing that's great about athletics. Education alone is a good thing. Don't get me wrong, but there's so many different activities that kids can be a part of that will teach them and help strengthen these life lessons, if you will. And it's nothing like some of the stuff that you can learn in athletics, both in winning and in losing.
Perfect. Let's finish up with a couple of questions, Aaron. The first one being, you've got two suggestions for a brand new athletic director, and they need to follow Aaron's suggestions in order to become successful. What would your two suggestions be?
Okay, so the first one would be to listen and to learn. When I was doing my graduate work, they were talking about if you were to become a principal of a new school, there's a three-prong approach. Think big, have a vision for the school, start small, go slow, and in that way you can build buy-in from your faculty and staff. And I would suggest the same thing for an athletic director: listen and learn, get out there. Don't walk into things trying to make changes right away. Get to know your coaches, get to know your administrators, listen to what they have to say, learn as much as you can about your role, but still have that vision in place and learn about your school. The second thing would be to understand the culture of the place. Uh, every school is different. Every school has a unique culture, school climate, if you will. And so if you have a good idea and if you go in there with an open mind, but still keep in mind with your vision and learning as much as you can before trying to implement change, I think that ADs could have some success.
Great suggestions. Thanks so much for sharing. We'll finish with this. Aaron, what question should I have asked you that I failed to ask you?
Oh, I can't think of any. I've been stressing over this just a little bit.
Oh,
Um, But no, I think that this is awesome. I love the opportunity for athletic directors and coaches to be better at their craft and I think the UIAAA is a tremendous organization. I'm grateful for my membership in it.
well, that is well said. On that note, that wraps it up for this edition of the UIAAA Connection. Again, our special guest today has been Aaron Whitehead, the Director of Athletics for the Granite School District in Salt Lake County, Utah. Thanks again, Aaron, for being on the podcast.
You bet. Thanks, Hutch. I appreciate it.
For our listeners, we hope you tune in again next week for another edition of the UIAAA Connection.